The certainty of life is something that most of us take for granted. When we say goodbye to our loved ones, for instance, we often do so nonchalantly, safe in the misguided confidence that we will see them again soon. However, life is not a linear narrative. It is full of unlikely curveballs, and in June 2024, the Slater family would feel the full effects of one such curveball hitting them directly in the stomach. A curveball that would take a son away from a mother, a nephew away from an uncle, and a loyal friend from a group. One that would make headlines, create shockwaves throughout the United Kingdom, and send shivers down the spine of anyone who heard about it. This is the real story behind the disappearance of Jay Slater, without any of the sensationalist journalism that plagued the case from the start. Before his disappearance, Jay Slater was hardly the type of person to make headlines. In fact, he was, for all intents and purposes, a very normal 19-year-old. An apprentice bricklayer, Slater spent his days working in the mild weather of Britain and his evenings with his friends before going home to his parents. He particularly enjoyed music, and one day he and his two friends, Lucy and Brad, decided to plan a trip to Tenerife to attend the island's New Rave Generation, or NRG festival. This festival, held annually, hosts the world's best EDM DJs and is widely regarded as one of the best raving spots in the world. In 2024, some of the biggest headliners included I Hate Models and Hannah Lang. The festival would take place from the 14th to the 16th of June, so the trio decided to book a flight to Tenerife for the 13th to give them enough time to get settled before a weekend of drinking, dancing and raving. When they arrived at the airport, Jay said goodbye to his parents, unbeknownst to him that this would be the last time he would ever do so. As the weekend rolled around, the trio danced, drank and partied the nights away, encapsulated by the music and the freedom of a holiday without parents. The trio stayed together for the majority of the festival. However, on Sunday night, the last day of the festival, Jay decided that he was going to make some new friends. In his attempt, he found a group of two men who agreed to party the night away with him. As the night drew on, Brad and Lucy decided that they wanted to head back to their accommodation. Jay, however, was not interested. He had found a new group of friends and he was not going to cut his night off early. And so, he stayed out, on his own, surrounded by strangers. Slater then made the decision that would change the trajectory of his life for good. Instead of going back to his own accommodation, he decided to go back to the Airbnb that his two new friends were staying in. The Airbnb was situated in the Masca, northwestern Tenerife, a small village surrounded by mountains and ravines, and about an hour's drive from Playa de las Americas, where the festival was held. To call Masca a village is generous. To get there, it's a roller coaster of a road that at times seems like you're driving through the clouds. Masca attracts view seekers, hardcore hikers and nature lovers, mostly from Germany and mainland Spain. It's miles away, figuratively and literally, from the typical Tenerife party scene. The Airbnb itself was a holiday cottage and quaint in size. In fact, it was booked for just £40 per night. It was between 3 a.m. and 6 a.m. that Jay gets into a car with two men he had met during the festival and left town at 7:30 a.m. He posted a photograph on his Snapchat account showing him at the doorway of a property tagged with the location Park Rural de Teno. Between 8:30 a.m. and 9 a.m. he calls friends and says he missed a bus back south and was attempting to walk the 10-hour journey. Along the way, Jay phoned his friend Brad, who urged Jay to get a taxi instead of trekking through the mountains. However, all he received in response was the disheartening sound of stones falling and Jay saying, "I'll ring you back." Lucy then received a call from Slater at 8:30 a.m, where he told her that he had missed his bus and had tried to get back to the accommodation by foot, a journey which would, unbeknownst to Jay, take the best part of 11 hours. However, along the way, Jay told Lucy that he had got lost in the mountains, needed water, and that his phone was only 1% charged. He then abruptly hung up. This was the last time anyone would hear from Jay Slater. A day later, on Tuesday the 18th, Slater was declared missing, and the Foreign, Commonwealth and Development Office confirmed an official investigation for his disappearance. Distraught, Jay's mother Debbie and older brother Zach flew out to Tenerife immediately. It was their initial belief that Slater had come to harm, potentially by the men Jay had stayed with. However, this was quickly shut down by investigators. On Friday, the 21st, the Airbnb host, Ophelia, came forward to say that she saw Jay walking alone and fast on the morning of his disappearance. She later explained that it was dangerous walking around the area and that it was easy to lose yourself. He was seen walking up the road when she saw him for the last time. He was alone. He was walking normally, though at a fast pace. This was the last sighting of Slater. The search intensified for the missing young man. The official search team was accompanied by several British volunteers who flew directly from the UK to assist after hearing about Slater through social media. Paul Arnott, a 29-year-old mountaineer from Flitwick in Bedfordshire, joined the official search on June 23rd and told the media at the time that he was working with authorities on 2 specific routes off the main road of the national park that lead to a water source. He said at the time that he was informing authorities of his movements at all times and that they were getting frustrated with so many detectives coming here who did not understand the difficult terrain. Arnott didn't know it at the time, but his hunch on where to look for Jay would come eerily true around 4 weeks later. However, on June 30th, after searching the mountains with helicopters and search dogs, the Spanish police officially ended their search for the young Brit. The authorities claimed the case had been clouded by inaccurate conspiracy theories and the imagination of internet sleuths. The case was almost unprecedented in the level of online trolling his family endured around his disappearance. There had been suggestions that Slater's past involvement in a gang attack in 2021, for which he had already been handed a community order, could be linked to his disappearance. This made him fair game to some people within the UK, and many members of the public took the high moral ground. Another negative angle was spun out into the public domain that Jay had stolen a Rolex prior to going missing, sending the online trolls and armchair detectives into overdrive. Some individuals on social media had even gone as far as questioning the legitimacy of Slater's disappearance altogether. It was suggested on social media that the story had been fabricated in order for the family to profit from a GoFundMe page set up a day after his disappearance. Over £50,000 has been donated to date. Others had suggested that Slater and his friends were acting as drug mules, largely due to Slater's connections with Ayub Qasim. Now, people are allowed their opinions. The internet is a place for individuals to exercise their right to free speech after all. However, the hate that the Slater family received was grossly over the top. Online personalities used the case to boost their following. Mark Williams-Thomas, a former detective turned investigator for television who researched the disappearance of Nicola Bulley last year, told reporters that he planned to return to the UK after spending 36 hours in Tenerife, speaking with all the key witnesses except the 2 men, pushing the idea that Jay had potentially been kidnapped. And, as a result, many people had all but given up hope for Jay Slater. However, unbeknown to those back in the UK, the Spanish police had secretly continued the incessant and discreet search beyond the time that they said was the official end date, away from prying and unhelpful eyes. And on Monday, the 15th of July, some 29 days since Jay Slater went missing, Spanish police released a statement to say that they had found the remains of Jay's body. It is believed that the body was found in a very inaccessible part of the island. Spanish police believe he had fallen down a chasm or a drop in the island. That is what made it so difficult to find his body. The area is full of drops and has thick vegetation. The remains were found by agents with the mountain rescue and intervention groups, a team in the Civil Guard who had trained in mountain and cave rescues in the Masca area in Buena Vista del Norte, where Slater disappeared. The initial evidence shows that he could have suffered an accident or fall in the inaccessible zone where he was found. Matt Searle, the charity's chief executive, said on Tuesday that the family were absolutely devastated and are still trying to come to terms with it. He added, It is obviously not the outcome they wanted to hear. Sol said there were no surprises concerning the items that were found with Slater. It was exactly what he was known to be carrying, he said. He also confirmed that the evidence suggested Slater had suffered a significant fall. Sol said that Slater's mother had initially felt anguish at how close her son's body was found to the last known location of his phone, and thought that if searchers had looked that little bit further, then he might still be alive and she might still be taking him home alive. In reality, he was found quite close geographically to the last mobile ping, but altitude-wise, he was a long, long way down, so it would not have been possible. When I explained how long it had taken to get to the site, it made her feel a lot better. I said to her that if he had fallen down that ravine, the chances of him being alive and being aware of it were very, very low. So he wouldn't have known much about it. It is not the nightmare scenario of him being trapped somewhere for days and waiting to die. That does provide some comfort. Ultimately, the story of the disappearance of Jay Slater can only be described as a harrowing and extremely unfortunate string of events. Our hearts go out to his family, who deserve greater support from the online world in their time of need.